is Crime After Bedtime. It's Crime After Bedtime.
I'm not freaking Nancy Drew. I'm Kayla. Yeah, it is cheesy, but I don't care. I'm a cheesy bitch.
Yeah. And I'm Austin.
Husband and wife.
I like banging. Oh, that's it. Keep stroking it, baby. Let's go.
We're not investigators.
What? That's crazy.
Let's hope this goes well. Kids are in bed.
It's crime after bedtime.
You want all that shit on the table?
I don't give a shit. Is it bothering you?
No.
No.
I figured it'd be bothering you.
Well, no. Technical difficulties bother me. We seem to have a lot of those.
Tell me when to go.
Ready, set, go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Crime After Bedtime. I'm Kayla.
Yo, 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 yo.
Oh, my God.
And, oh, my God, that gets the blood.
You need to go back to bed.
I wish.
We need to start over.
No, that's good. Let's go. Run it. Quit act. Let's go, baby. You're wasting precious fucking time here, dude.
Thanks for being
Got shit
here.
to do.
We're still super pleased with all the feedback we've been getting. And keep sharing, keep liking, all that good stuff.
All that great stuff.
Yeah, and let us know what you think about the episodes, too. Comment and...
Tell us how bad Kayla's doing.
Shut up. No, tell us what you think.
AKA how bad Kayla's doing.
Oh, my God. You are on my nerves
Dude, I'm hyped.
If you are on YouTube, we got some new additions to the setup, and I think they are really freaking cool.
I know, we kind of, well, we don't know what we're doing, but we kind of look like we know what we're doing.
Well, let's hope we do know what we're doing.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding, we definitely don't.
It is starting to look like a podcast, though.
Yeah. Looks cool.
Which is cool. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our kids also are just as into this as we are. Our oldest, Maverick, talks about Crime After Bedtime all the time. He has no idea what this podcast is about. He talks about it.
It's in the name.
But he's 7. He doesn't know what that means. We had a friend over this weekend, and we were upstairs, and he took their remote, and he asked me how to spell Crime After Bedtime, and he put it on YouTube. He played the video. But, so it was on up here, but they were playing. He wasn't really listening. He's so proud of this show, and he talks about it all the time. And even our 3-year-old does. I'll get the iPad out or get my notebook. He'll say, "You working on podcast?" So anyways, everybody's having fun with it. Yeah, they're crazy.
They are that.
Well, let's just get right into it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Before we start, this one is going to be a little heavy.
Great.
It's a little... But I just want to remind you that you chose this one.
Oh, well...
He asked me how I choose every week, and I just said, well, I have a whole list going of what I want to cover. And so he said, all right, just read them to me, and I'll pick a name off the list. So I read them to him, and he picked this one.
Well, out of the list that out of the names on the list that I had, it sounded the most intriguing.
Yeah. Well, it's a long one. Said that last time, too, though. But we'll just get right into it. Today, whenever we hear the words quadruple.
Holy shit. You need to go back to bed.
Quadruple homicide.
Say it again.
Quadruple.
You can do it.
Homicide. We immediately think of the tragic murder of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Maddie Mogan that just happened in Idaho. Unless you're my mother-in-law who didn't know who they were until I told her over New Year's. I was mind blown. She didn't know who that was. Tammy.
Come on, Tammy.
Living under a rock. She knows now because trust me, I filled her in.
It's been smelling too many fumes at Bath and Body Works.
So, anyways, when you hear the words quadruple homicide, I almost messed it up again. That is a very hard word to say.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
You probably immediately think of those 4 senseless murders, and I do absolutely plan on covering this case one day, but as it is still developing, And I, along with the rest of the country, am watching and waiting, hoping for justice to be served. We do want to take a moment to acknowledge the beautiful people that Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie were. And we will cover it one day, I promise. But there's just too much still unfolding right now, I feel like, to try to cover
too early. I mean, we're not a breaking news crew. That's just a...
But before we can cover the Moscow, Idaho quadruple homicide.
Holy, I mean, you chose to say that 100 times.
I hope I don't have to say it again. I don't remember. I'm going to avoid it at all costs. I want to take us back to 1991 in Austin, Texas, where 4 other young people tragically lost their lives and turned the nation upside down.
Austin, Texas?
Yep. Is that what I said?
Yeah, it's my mind like blanked out for a minute. I was just making sure.
Yeah. So,
dude, what's up with Texas? Last episode?
Oh, it was Texas last episode, too.
Yeah.
Yep, we got 2 in a row.
It's dirty down there.
Yeah, 1991.
I say that, but we're 3 hours away from Memphis.
Yeah, this is true. Jennifer Harbison was a 17-year-old and a senior in high school at Lanier High School in Austin, Texas. She was a fun-loving social butterfly and was friendly to everyone she met. She was on the track team and served as president of the FFA, which if you don't know what that is, in high school it is the Future Farmers of America. Her little sister, Sarah...
I didn't know that's what that was.
Oh, you didn't know what that was?
City boy.
Her little sister, Sarah Harbison, was 15 and was a freshman at Lanier High School. She was very athletic, playing both volleyball and basketball, and she was also a member of the FFA. Eliza Thomas was 17 years old and was an animal lover and also really enjoyed being a member of the FFA. She was also involved in the school's agriculture...
Oh
my
shit.
Gosh.
Fuck yes. I love... And you're a reader. I couldn't... Hey... You're doing better than me, but this is awesome.
She was also involved in the school's agriculture...
Oh, this brings me so much joy. Just watching you burn slowly. I do love you, but this is fun. This is fun.
I don't even want to attempt it again.
What's the word?
I can hear it. I can say it in my head, but when I'm saying it with my mouth, it's not coming out right. Agricultural mechanics program. And I still don't think I said it right, but I'm not going to do it again. Where she excelled in classes on welding and small engine repair. Now,
damn.
You've got me on edge. I'm going to be this way for the rest of the night. Oh, Amy Ayers was the youngest of the 4. She was just 13 years old and in the 8th grade. She loved to ride horses and loved animals. She loved George Strait and wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. And she was a junior member of the FFA. So these girls are all connected, all in the Future Farmers of America. Jennifer and Eliza also worked together at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt frozen yogurt shop.
Huh. Dude, speaking of that, did you see they're getting rid of CC's?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Not that I'm like some huge fan, but side note.
The yogurt shop was located in the Hillside Shopping Center that included 12 other shops surrounding it. On the evening of December 6, 1991, Jennifer and Eliza are working the closing shift together and will be closing the shop at 11 p.m., which, first off, seems kind of late for a yogurt shop to close, but maybe that's just me. 11's late.
I don't think so. Like, what? On the weekends, no, it's not. I mean, dude, think about how many times we went and, like, got ice cream and shit like that late.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Like, what's that one place by... This does not fucking matter. Continue.
But also late to have these 2 young women closing by themselves. But I can't say that I haven't been there working.
I was about to say,
in
you
high
worked
school.
at Roosters.
Yeah, but I was never by myself. But when I worked at the tanning salon, I would be by myself and close at 10 p.m. Literally just me.
Dude, that one time, though.
But I was, like, fearless back then and didn't think anything of it. Now I would be terrified to be sitting in that tanning salon by myself at 10 p.m.
It's all this true crime you've been doing.
But nevertheless, Jennifer and Eliza are nearing the end of their shift. At some point, Sarah and Amy come to the shop after an evening of shopping and hanging out at the nearby North Cross Mall to help the girls close up and catch a ride home. I'm really having trouble. I'm going to have to start doing like exercises before where I get my lips,
Yeah.
my mouth warmed up.
Show us what the exercises are.
Shut up. At 11:47 p.m., Officer Troy Gay calls in and reports a fire at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop. Firefighters work diligently to put out the fire, and it's sort of like in the back of the yogurt shop. Homicide Detective John Jones just so happens to be doing a ride-along with the local news station. So, like, I watched a 48 Hours episode on this, and at first I was so confused because it's literally showing the video footage of him, but it's not a reenactment. Like, sometimes on crime shows, they'll do reenactments, and I'm like, this is so weird that there was just a camera in his car. Like, there's a camera that he gets the first initial call, like, hey, there's a fire at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop at this address. And I was like, why do we have this film footage? But he was doing a ride along with the local news station. So we have like all this film footage of the actual night, which was weird to see. But I lost my place. Yes, we have footage of him receiving the initial phone call while putting out the blaze. Oh, excuse me. While putting out the blaze, firefighters come across the gruesome discovery that there are 3 fatalities and call it in to him. Just minutes later, he gets another phone call that a 4th body has been found. 3 bodies are in the back of the store and are badly charred, for the most part unrecognizable. But the girls are identified shortly after, obviously due to them being able to figure out that Jennifer and Eliza were on the closing shift that night, and that Sarah and Amy, there were plans for them to join them, so it didn't take long to identify them that way. So, we have the 4 girls.
I was about to say, well, I mean, what were they thinking when they pulled up and they didn't see anybody that was working there?
Probably, well, it was after 11, so like that the fire started after they left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like everybody closed up shop and left, and then a fire started.
I got you.
Yeah. So now let's think about the crime scene, which has been basically destroyed because everything is covered in soot, smoke damage, and water, damaging most of, if not all of any possible evidence. I mean, we have to think about how hard it is to get fingerprints off of anything. They've had those firefighter hoses on everything. A pipe had burst, so there was water damage that way too. The bodies of Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza were found in the back of the shop, kind of like in the prep area or like kitchen area, I guess. These 3 girls were found nude, and Sarah and Eliza were found gagged and with their hands bound behind their backs using their own underwear and bra. Jennifer was not noted to have been gagged or bound, but she was also nude. All 3 girls were found as if they were like stacked on top of one another.
I mean, that's...
Like they stacked 3 bodies, but then somewhere along the mix, the body that was on the top got knocked off. So she was kind of found over to the side, whether it was from the hose or something, she got knocked off, but it's believed that all 3 bodies were stacked on top of each other. Where did I go? All 3 girls had a single gunshot wound to the back of the head with a .22 caliber gun.
Jeez.
Yeah, I told you it's not. I don't like it. Amy's body, now Amy's the 13-year-old. Amy's body was found still in the back of the store, but a little closer towards the front, kind of near where the bathrooms were. She was also found nude with some kind of sock-like fabric tied around her neck. Her body suffered less burning than the other girls because of where she was located. The fire was started in the back of the store, which is where those girls were. So they put out the fire pretty quickly so that it hadn't reached her as much. I keep losing my little spot on here. Amy suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head that were actually made by 2 different guns, the .22 caliber and a .380, which I know nothing about guns.
So there's, I'm assuming, more than one person.
Yeah, that's what they're taking from this, leading detectives to the assumption that there was more than one perpetrator responsible for this heinous crime. I did research on multiple different articles, newspaper articles, the 48 Hours episode, and then I did listen to a couple podcasts, and I'm getting mixed reports across the board on who and if however many were sexually assaulted. There was sexual assault that happened, but the first thing that I wrote was at least one of the girls was sexually assaulted. In one article I read that Jennifer was, and one article that I read that Sarah was, and then one podcast said that Amy was. So I don't know, but sexual assault was present. Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza's cause of death were ruled due to gunshot wound at the head, while Amy's cause of death was a result of gunshot wounds and asphyxia. Almost messed up that word.
I'll be honest, I don't know what that word is.
So it can be either strangled, probably strangled. She was strangled too. So my thought is she didn't immediately die. And actually one of the articles said that she was still clinging to life when they got there, but just barely. And then she sadly passed away when they got there. So the other girls were shot and probably immediately.
Well, that's sad as shit.
Yeah, I know. But Amy, the 13-year-old, was shot twice and strangled. So, digging into the events of that night, we find out that around 10 p.m., a man named Daryl Croft, who is a former police officer, visited the yogurt shop. So they start interviewing. They start trying to retrace steps. And they come across this Daryl Croft. Daryl recounts that he was in line with a man who was kind of behaving strangely, he said. He was letting other people go ahead of him. So each time that was his turn to order, he would tell somebody else to go in front of him. He approaches Croft and asks him if he's a cop. Because I guess he also owned a security company, and I guess he was in his security vehicle, so maybe this guy saw it, but asked him if he's a cop. He says no, and then he tells him, well, you can go ahead of me, you can go ahead and order. And Croft has a weird feeling about him, is like, nah, man, you go ahead, and has him go ahead and order. This guy orders only a drink at a yogurt shop. Like, why did you come to a yogurt shop to order a drink? And then he goes to the back of the store, which is where the bathrooms are. And Croft, being the good citizen that he is and an ex-cop, he decides to hang around a bit to keep an eye on this guy. But after a few minutes, he never returns, and Croft decides to go ahead and leave. So, he later describes this man as a white male, around 6 feet, mid to late 20s, medium build, and clean-shaven with a long, pointy nose and a deep voice. Also in the shop that night, a married couple were there, and they were also interviewed. They remember just before 11 seeing 2 men sitting in a booth, making no evident moves to leave, while the girls are clearly trying to close up for the night. The couple says that the men were acting strange whenever they left. It was only the 2 men and the 4 girls that remained in the store, and that was right before 11, which was closing time.
Okay, time out. So, how did they figure out these people were at the store? Did they come forth and say, hey, I was there?
Probably.
Because I was about to say, like...
I mean, it didn't say.
And obviously
sure
there was a fire, but there's
saw.
no camera. Like, did that get destroyed and all that?
There's no camera footage.
I guess, I don't know. It was 91, so... Yeah, but... Alright, continue.
Yeah. They did discover at 11:03 the no sale key was hit on the cash register, opening up the cash drawer, and $540 was missing from the drawer. It's reported that there had been numerous robberies in surrounding shops the months leading up to the murders, one business even being broken into 8 times within a span of 2 months, forcing them to put windows on their bars. So this... What? Forcing them to put bars on their windows.
They put windows on their bars?
I didn't even catch it either. I was like, why are you looking at me like that?
I love you.
Oh my gosh.
You're killing this.
I am.
No, you really are, though.
Hopefully this is nobody's first episode they're listening to. So DNA found, they were able to find some DNA, which we will get into that a little bit more later. But initially, I believe they did find some DNA and they entered it into CODIS, but unfortunately there was no match found at the time. Do you know what CODIS is?
I mean, I've got an idea. I mean, I've never heard of
It's
it, but
the
I assume,
FBI's.
it's the DNA database.
Yes. No match found at the time.
They all got it. They got ours.
Why?
That's why they do the fingerprints when you're a kid. For the dare.
Yeah, and I had to get my fingerprints done when I worked at ESP.
That's understandable.
I don't remember getting it done at Dare in school.
You don't, I'm pretty sure it was dare or something. I remember a cop coming in and doing.
Maybe. I mean, I definitely did when I.
They do it as fun, but I'm pretty sure that's why.
I mean, more power to them if they can make their database bigger and stop freaking criminals. Or not stop them, but catch them. Hopefully stop them. But it just makes me sick. Like, I just can't imagine the terror in those girls and the fact that they were found nude. Like, just the terror and humiliation that they must have been feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And they were babies. Their clothing was found at the back of the store, too, in a pile. But the city of Austin is grieving, and they want answers. The 4 girls have a combined funeral on December 10th with over 1,500 people in attendance. Christmas comes and goes, and 3 families have to spend their first holiday season without their daughters. The Harbisons lost, the 2 girls were their only children.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. Teachers and members of the FFA wore black buttons that read, "We will not forget." As they banded together, did I say that right? As they banded together? Would it be as they band together? I'm on a roll tonight. They rallied together.
Yeah, there you go. That's better.
To show the girls animals in the Austin Livestock Show. All 4 girls had been raising animals for the show and working hard, and they were so proud and had been looking forward to the upcoming show. Eliza's only sister, Sonora, showed her pig, and the other members of the FFA showed Amy's pigs and the lambs raised by Sarah and Jennifer. A close friend of the girls and vice president of the Lanier High School's FFA, Sandra, I'm going to butcher this last name, especially tonight, Sandra Hajda? She was the vice president, and she was tasked with stepping into Jennifer's presidential role. She is quoted as saying, "I didn't want to move up because I would be taking her place. Even though she was gone, she was still the president. We had a feeling she was still there." She did end up stepping into her role, saying, "I knew that Jennifer would have wanted me to move up." So the town is just, I mean, the same feeling I'm sure is what Moscow, Idaho feels right now. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine something like that happening, like, so close to home. It's sad no matter what, but with little evidence remaining after the blaze, investigators aren't left with a whole lot to work with. Bill Bryce, the president of operations of Bryce Foods of Dallas, which owns the yogurt shop, offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the killers. Multiple billboards were put up around the city with pictures of the girls reading, "Who killed these girls?" and urged anyone with info to call the tip line and offered the $25,000 reward. Signs were put on trunks on the back of taxi cabs pleading for information. So there's multiple signs up around the city, billboards, and taxi cabs driving around. Like, somebody has to know something. Somebody had to have seen something.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, they're desperate for any kind of leads. December 23rd, 1991, just weeks after the murders, a teenage girl... I'm sorry, I skipped a I skipped a little paragraph, but it wasn't super important. The most important takeaways from the early days of the investigation were that their suspect list at one point has over 300 people on it.
300?
Yeah. Or I guess that's probably not a suspect list. That's probably person of interest
I'm
list.
about to say.
That's not a suspect list.
Fuck.
I just wrote in the wrong thing.
But I
Their
mean,
person
even
of interest list. Yeah.
still, that's a lot of
I
fucking
know.
people. 300 people?
Yeah. People were offering up false confessions left and right.
Oh, they want that money.
Why? No, false confessions.
Oh, confessions.
Why?
That is weird. Why?
Why do people do that? Which the more we see this, you will see that it is very common to have false confessions.
Like people just walk in there and say, "Hey, I did
it."
this."
Yes.
How do? That's weird.
I don't.
That makes
I
no
don't
sense.
know. Why do you get a kick out of that?
I mean, what happens?
What motive do you have for confessing to something? Now, a lot of times people in jail already or in prison will confess to try to knock time off or something like that, you know? But,
afterwards?
like, like if they get
Yeah.
arrested for, years later, they'll be in jail and be like, well, by the way, I did this back
Oh,
in.
as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, why? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
weird.
On
How do they know that they faked the confession?
I guess the evidence just
And
doesn't match up.
What's the repercussions for doing that?
I mean, I would assume something. I'll
That's
have
what
to
I'm
look into
saying.
that. It
I would
has to be
assume you get.
something. I mean, you're wasting
so much
so
time.
much time
Yeah.
and footwork and money going into, okay, well, let's investigate this person because they said they did it, when they could be investigating and actually finding somebody who did it.
Yeah. So that makes you, not just as shitty, but pretty shitty.
I'm sure you get charged with something. I'll have to look it up.
That's weird. All right.
On December 23rd, 1991, just weeks after the murders, excuse me, where'd I go? A teenage girl and her boyfriend confessed to the murders. Yep. But police proved this to be false. In 1992, a man in Mexico confesses to the murders as well. He was in prison on an unrelated murder charge, and he confessed. Like I just said, like, oh, by the way, I did those murders and
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
I know, babe, but people think a lot differently.
I think it's the cop.
This man ends up recanting his confession, stating that the Mexican federal agents tortured him. Among these, over the years, police have received around 50 false confessions.
That's
50 false
mind-boggling to me.
confessions.
I don't get it. Anyway.
Like, I know that it happens. It happens in so many cases. But 50 freaking false confessions.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I don't get it.
I know.
I've never even heard of that.
You're going to hear from it a lot more because it happens in so many cases. A known serial killer, Kenneth Allen McDuff, was found to have been in the area at the time of the murders. So he was kind of looked into. So years later, when he gets arrested, they find out that he had been in the area at that time. And he was kind of known for killing people around that age, like teenagers.
So does that mean like this investigation went on for a while?
Just let me finish.
Well, you just said it.
He was definitely in question at one point, but he was eventually ruled out. December 14th, 1991, so just days after the murders, a 15-year-old named Maurice Pierce is arrested in North Cross Mall for unlawfully carrying a weapon, which just so happens to be a .22 caliber revolver. Now, North Cross Mall is the mall where Sarah and Amy were at that night, so it's super close. Yeah, it's right there. Pierce tells officers that he had loaned the gun to a friend and that it had in fact been used in the yogurt shop murders just days prior. He says that his friend, 16-year-old Forrest Wellborn, gave him a detailed recount of the murders. Pierce also implicates 17-year-old Robert Springsteen and 17-year-old Michael Scott, also being involved. Police questioned Wellborn And they even had Maurice Pierce wear a wire and go talk to Wellborn about the murders and try to get him on record with the wire. And Wellborn didn't have a clue what he was talking about. It was clear that
There was another.
he didn't know what he was talking about. So he gets cleared. They did test that gun, and it was not a match to the one. And they only found spent shell casings, but it wasn't a match. In 1997, there's a new lead detective on the case, Paul Johnson, and he makes it evident that he doesn't believe the boys who were those 4 boys were investigated properly. They begin to revisit and re-interview both Maurice Pierce and Forrest Wellborn, who are now both in their 20s, married with families. Both men deny having anything to do with the murders and claim they don't remember anything about the crimes. Forrest Wellborn does take a polygraph test, and he passes. These 4 suspects are revisited a number of times, and they just keep saying they don't remember anything about this. On September 9th, Michael Scott is brought in for questioning, where he's interrogated for over 13 hours.
Jesus.
With the investigator insisting over and over that Scott was responsible for the murders of those girls. With Michael insisting that he doesn't remember anything about the murders and he wasn't involved. At one point, the investigator even... so they still have that 22 of Maurice's when he got arrested. Obviously, they didn't just give it back to him. He was unlawfully carrying a weapon. The investigator even goes and gets that gun and holds it to the back of Michael's head in the interrogation room. Like...
Are they allowed to do that?
No!
I was about to say.
And it's on video. And this investigator denies that he did that. It's on video.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. In the end, the investigator gets what he was hoping for, which is Michael Scott finally confessing to the murders. Next, Robert Springsteen is brought in, and just like Michael, he sticks to his story of innocence in the beginning, but eventually he gives in and gives a confession. In October of 1999, 8 years after the murders, police turn the city upside down when they arrest Maurice Pierce, Forrest Wellborn, Michael Scott, and Robert Springsteen, who are being charged with capital murder. I do want to point out that there is no physical evidence to tie any of these 4 men to the crime, but they have the 2 confessions. Investigators paint the picture that the teenagers planned this robbery with Maurice as the ringleader. Forrest Wellborn was the lookout and the driver of the car. Michael and Robert as the murderers. They say the boys had... I have a typo.
No way.
The boys had steamed out the yogurt shop. I think I meant to put...
Steamed? Staked?
Staked out, yes. I was like, what did I even mean to put there? The boys had staked out the yogurt shop earlier in the afternoon and had gone to the back and propped open the door, for which is where they exited. So that does line up with somebody going to the bathroom and probably propping open that back door because the front door was locked. Whoever did these murders exited through the back door.
Well, I mean, entered and, right?
Yeah. Probably. Unless they were already there, unless they were one of those dudes that were sitting at the table. Remember the married couple left with 2 guys sitting at the table. I didn't find like a super well described.
But I'm saying they're not gonna lock.
What does that say?
What does it say? Hold on. Time out.
What?
I don't know why it's saying that. All right, Gucci.
Ultimately, without a confession from Maurice Pierce and Forrest Wellborn's, their charges are eventually dropped. So now we're dealing with Michael and Robert. 10 years after the murders, the trials begin, and the trials are separate. Both of the men's lawyers would argue that the confessions were coerced under psychological pressure, but ultimately, both men would be found guilty.
I was about to say, but like, I don't care. Like, I mean, sure, like, investigate me for 13 hours, but if I didn't fucking do it, you can
Yeah, I mean,
suck my.
but it's
I'm
like,
not gonna say, yeah, I did it.
it's almost like a psychological thing, though, because he was sitting there for 13 hours where they are just telling him over and over and over, we know you did this. We know you did this. You're going to get the death penalty. But if you confess, we might be able to get you off of the death penalty.
Yeah, but if I didn't do it, if I truly didn't do it, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
But, so both men are found guilty. Robert Springsteen is sentenced to death, and Michael Scott is sentenced to life in prison. In 2006, Robert Springsteen's confession was overturned when the Texas Court of Appeals ruled that Michael Scott's confession had been inappropriately used against him, and it was in violation of his Sixth Amendment right, which states there should be no confrontation of witnesses. So they can't use Michael's confession against Robert.
Mm.
And they did that. In 2007, the same court overturns Mike Scott's convention for the same reason.
Conviction.
What'd I say?
Convention.
Oh my gosh. I'm over myself. Both of these cases were still being prepared for retrial. So they used Michael's confession against Robert in the court in the trial and used Robert's against Michael.
So nobody got put down yet, right?
Well, their cases are still being prepared for retrial. Now, remember, we do have some DNA that we still, I mean, back in 1991, DNA wasn't,
Forgot about that.
Yeah. By this time in 2007, DNA has come some way, and we do have a bit of DNA to work with. 2 sets of male DNA were actually pulled from Jennifer Harbison, but one set was confirmed to be the DNA of her boyfriend, which lines up with she visited him before work.
Mm.
And he admits that, and he says, yeah, she was at my house before work. So the other DNA, we don't know whose that is. A single strand of male DNA was found from the body of Amy Ayers, but it wasn't a complete sample. It was like a partial sample, which, again, I don't know anything about any of that. Hopefully I will learn as we go along. But it wasn't complete, so it was kind of...
So basically the DNA that was found is just, it doesn't matter.
Well, not necessarily. At this time, when everything's going on, I guess so. But none of the DNA found at the crime scene was a match to any of the 4 men. We do know that DNA does not match any of those 4 men.
I mean, I don't know. Right as of right now, in this point in time in the story, I don't think they did it.
By 2009,
I still think it's the cop.
What cop?
At the beginning of the story.
You need to stop. By 2009, all charges against Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen were dropped. And on June 24th, 2009, the men were freed after being in prison for 10 years.
Dude, I'd be pissed. So, like, are they, like, did the family stick around and all that, or?
What family?
Well, didn't they have families and shit?
Oh, yeah. When, I can't remember which one, but when one of them left, he, left with his wife.
Damn, that's crazy, dude.
I know. In 2014, the single strand of DNA found on Amy Ayers was entered into a database that came back with a match. Now, again, I don't know a whole lot about DNA. I read a whole bunch and I still didn't really understand, but it wasn't a match to a person. It's not going to give you a photo of a person. It gives them a familial,
Familiar?
No, like their family,
okay.
traits.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you say match, it's not like you got exactly who it was. But the FBI wouldn't release it to the Austin police who this familial family could be or whatever, because it was an anonymous, the donors of the DNA had all been anonymous. So they couldn't release it. Yeah.
How does that, how can they be anonymous?
I don't know. I mean, it was an anonymous, I don't know. That's really weird to me.
Yeah.
But it turns out in 2020.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
This keeps getting later and later.
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
we're at fucking. I can't do math.
Okay. But in 2020, it was determined
Like
that
30 years almost.
after further testing was conducted, the sample provided was unfortunately not a match. Remember, it's not a full
Mm-hmm.
DNA sample. And this is unfortunately where we will end the case for today, as no arrests have been made.
Cliffhangers?
I mean, it's not a cliffhanger, it's unsolved.
Well, Jesus.
Yeah. These 3 families have no real answers 30 years after they lost their daughters. But I'm very hopeful with DNA technology advancing each and every day. I still hold out hope that soon we'll have the answers for who took these 4 lives. And I truly think that we will.
Yeah, hopefully. Man, that's crazy.
Like with all the genealogical testing, got that word right.
Yeah, you did.
They're going to find out who. They're going to find them. I hope.
Dude, what a letdown.
I know. It's really sad. But I'm telling you, I truly think, I think in the next, I say 2 years as broad, but I bet in the next 2 years they'll find out who did it.
What makes you think that?
Just because of all the genealogical testing that's already happening and all of the cases that are already getting solved because of that. Which you know what that is? That's where it's like, literally when you swab your mouth and send it into 23andMe, that gets put into a database.
Yeah, I know.
So if you do a 23andMe and 15 years from now, your nephew or even your nephew's kid or something,
Mm-hmm.
if their DNA is found on a crime scene, it could be traced back.
Yeah.
But I've seen cases where it's like that will happen, but they'll come to you because they found your DNA and they'll say, like, do you know a person who fits this description? Because they'll have their,
Yeah.
You're
kind of just the point of connection.
Right. Like so many cases have already been solved because of that. And I think it's only a matter of time before this one gets solved as well.
Well, I hope so, because fuck.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's 30 years.
I know, but also...
Well, longer now. But.
Yeah. Also, DNA can take a really long time for testing. It's not something that gets done quickly, usually. The city of Austin, obviously, still, even though it's 30 years later, still want answers. The whole country does. The school planted trees in memory of the girls, and they have a plaque hanging in the hallway with their picture. And those poor freaking parents. Ooh, it's a nightmare. But let's just try to close out this episode remembering and honoring the beautiful, ambitious, and kind girls that were taken from this earth way too soon. It's really eerie to go over this quadruple homicide from 30 years ago, knowing that the country has also been turned upside down yet again by another senseless murder of 4 young people. It breaks my heart seeing the faces in these photos of all 8 of these kids. They were literally kids, all 8 of them, babies. And it just is so sad that the world is still that sick.
Yeah, but not to be Debbie Downer, but it kind of always has been.
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
always going to have that.
I just pray for justice for all 8 of these babies and the families that hopefully they can find an ounce of peace when hopefully justice is brought to their families. And I just want to finish up by saying, just be a kind human. It's not hard to just be a kind human and not senselessly murder 4 people, 4 innocent children.
No, I think the majority of the world would agree with that.
That's all. Just be a kind human. That's going to be our new logo.
Is it?
Yeah. We can throw a cuss word in there if it makes you if it makes you happier.
Be a kind fucking human.
Yes, that's it.
By
right there.
God.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Mm.
We'll sell 5. Actually, no, because nobody would wear a t-shirt with the F word on it.
It wouldn't.
You absolutely would.
You wouldn't?
You would wear a t-shirt with the F word on it walking into our son's school.
Well, I'm not going to apologize.
But that's my case for today. I told you picked a heavy one. And I just skimmed the surface. I mean, that was 30 years of investigating, 30 years of 50 false confessions and a list of 300, persons of interest.
That still just doesn't make sense to me. All the false
I know.
confessions and all that. That's
But
just,
it is so insanely popular. I promise you, half the freaking cases we'll go over will have false confessions. People are weird. People get kicks out of weird shit. Weird people do, at least.
yeah.
They just freaking get off on false confessing. I don't know why.
Well, you and me both.
But that's all I got for today.
Good job.
I don't know what I'm doing next week yet. I have a lot to do because it takes me a really long time to investigate all these and write it how I want it to come out.
I thought you already started.
Nope. I haven't even picked for next week.
I guess you better get started.
Yep.
Well,
Thank you guys for listening, and hope you keep listening.
please
Subscribe on YouTube. That would be so helpful. Follow us on Instagram.
subscribe. Like, comment, share. Do it all. Fuck.
Instagram at Crime After Bedtime. We have a TikTok that we haven't posted anything to yet,
Dude,
but we will.
we're slacking on social media, I feel like.
Are we?
Yeah, I feel like we should be posting a lot more.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get at it.
Will you?
Yeah.
Just like your research for the next case?
Yeah. What do you guys want to see on social media? What kind of stuff you want to see? Anyways, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Hell yeah.
Good night.
Sleep tight. Finish her off. Bring
Don't
her
let the
home.
bed bugs bite.
Bed bugs? Murderers. Dude, we gotta work on that shit. Alright, love you.
Love you.
The party is winding down.
Wait. What does that mean?
Don't feel like partying anymore.
We've already reached climax?
I'm done.
That's trash.
Good night, everybody.